Welcome to the Choosing Cheer podcast, the show about the joy of Jesus in all of life's moments. I'm your host, Nicolet Bell, and my hope is that you'll see his joy is not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in his presence. Let's go there together. This episode is brought to you in part by Life Along the Way. If you've been listening a while, you've heard me talk about journeying through the Gospels through Life Along the Way series. Today, I want to tell you about a companion resource for your family. The family road trip guides are a great way your family can journey through the Gospels together. I love the activity sections to do with my daughter, Josie Lou. Any way that I can connect her to Jesus in our home is a win for me. You can pair these with our free reading guides for the whole family to read the Gospels together. You can find more information at lifealongtheway.church. This episode is also brought to you by Merle Norman of Madison and Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The Merle Norman brand is known for their timeless cosmetic products, but did you know that each studio is independently owned? The studios in Madison and Hattiesburg, Mississippi have so much more to offer than just cosmetics. You can find new boutique clothes, jewelry, and new lipstick all in one stop. With personalized and local customer service, you can get a truly special shopping experience. For more information, you can find them on Instagram or Facebook. Hey friends, welcome back to the Choosing Cheer podcast. I'm so glad you've joined us today, and I'm even more glad that my friend Jay Nelson is here with me today. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for letting me come join you.
Yes, well, Jay, I want you to start our conversation today by just telling us, I know about you, but some of our listeners might know about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, hello, friends. My name is Jay Nelson. I think one of the more distinguishing things is I just spell it with one letter. And so my mom made it easy for me as a kid. I could just, I could spell it in, I always tell people in kindergarten, I could spell it in print and in cursive, both. So I was off to a good start. Originally from Columbus, Mississippi, I did some school along the way at Mississippi State, went to seminary after that at Wesley Biblical here in Jackson, Mississippi, and took a little time off, went to get a counseling degree at Mississippi College about 10 years after that. So that's kind of some of the practical worlds that I live in. Work in a church, did youth ministry for 20 plus years, and now I've just recently moved into another role, which is has more to do with what we call hope, care, and counseling. So some of our recovery ministries and seeing people in a clinical setting as well. So doing that, but I would say most importantly, when all those things fade away, I am husband to Wesley, and I am dad to Ella, Kate, and Walker, and Emma. Those are my people. And so when there's a cross country race to be at, and when there is a ballet recital to go to, which is so out of the ordinary for the Nelsons, because I grew up in a family with just a brother. My dad was a coach, so we played sports, right? You know the coach lifestyle with your dad. And so the first time my oldest, right, Ella Kate, she's just really into ballet, loves it, and the people there, that's her community, which we actually will. I'll bring a little bit of that today. But man, yeah. So now I go to recitals. I'm actually in for the last few years just to help them out. I've been in their yearly production of the Nutcracker. So I'm the dad. I just figured out last year, I've been doing it for 2 years. I just found out he had a name. I didn't know he had a name.
Wait, you're in the performance?
I'm in the performance.
Why did I not know this?
I've done this for the last 2 years.
Do you wear tights?
No, that's where I would draw the line. Okay. I wear a tux. Oh. So there's the scene at the beginning. I didn't know this, right? I knew nothing about the Nutcracker. Funny story. My mom actually decided one day that when we were younger that we needed some culture. Like me and my brother needed some culture. So she took us to the Nutcracker, the performance in Columbus. And midway through, she looked at us and went, "If y'all have had enough, we can leave." And so we're out. So because she wanted to leave too, because she's a baseball mom. That's what she was. So yeah, there's this scene at the beginning where it's a party, and this man and his wife host the party. Well, I'm the man. I still don't know the man's, he has a name. I don't know it. I can't pronounce it. I think it's some German name. But yeah, I'm. You can see my name in the program. Things I never thought I would do, except for I love my daughter. That's right. And so if they need a dad for that, I'm in.
You'll be there.
I'm in.
That's great. Well, Jay, that is maybe I can say another fun fact about you and I is we served together at Christ United for about 3 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that was about right.
So Jay was my boss, and
I prefer friend.
Friend.
Yeah.
Co-worker. Co-worker, friend.
Yeah.
But you mentored me in that role, and I learned so much in my time serving there, and you just really let me kind of spread my wings and really dive into ministry. And some of my best memories are from working on the team with you. It was just a lot of fun. We had great coworkers, and we went through COVID in that season with as a church staff, and that was our whole experience. So I'm just really grateful that I got to have that time.
Yeah. Well,
with our team.
So was I, and still am, and grateful to the Lord that it brought us together. You know, as we're thinking about what we're going to talk about in community today, I think about one of the harder nights that we had. It was after some stuff went down at the church that which just made it a really difficult night for us, right? It was a Wednesday night, and we had actually had an awesome night, right? And then you guys know, right, when you're an awesome night and then something just crashes down on you. And I'll never forget it. You were sitting over by where we go into worship, and I came by, and the only thing that I knew, right, for those, you know, I don't have a ton of good advice. I'm no wise say. I love people, and I want to, and I want to in some ways, right? If I can make it better. And I know a lot of times I can't, but if I can, I want to. And in that moment, I remember us just sitting there, and I don't even know if you remember that night, but
I do.
We just sat there and. You know, of all the things that we went through and all the victories, and you think about some of those difficult moments and going, but who shows up when it's hard? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember anything we talked about except for one thing. I remember there was at the end, I just said, "It's going to be okay." Mm-hmm. And I really meant that, and it was right. Mm-hmm. It was.
The next day, the sun came up.
That's
and
right.
We
might have whined.
Yeah,
we might have whined about it for a little bit, but we got through it, and I think that's it, right? Going, who's gonna sit with you? Who's gonna be a part of your? Who are your people? I think about that when that's even the way I describe my family. Right. Sometimes I use one of those phrases from Grey's Anatomy for the kids. I call them the tiny humans. Mm-hmm. But when I think about my family, it's just like, hey, these are my people. Like when I go home tonight, whatever time I make it in the door, I'm going to get to see my people. I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jay, in this season, you've hinted at it a little bit, but we're talking about community, choosing cheer in community. And when I think about somebody that really kind of lives out or exemplifies community, bringing people together, helping people connect to each other, I just kept thinking of you. You're just so gifted at that, and you've done that to our family. The other day, you brought Preston cookies before he had a really hard shift, and just let him know, like, you see him, and you're cheering him on, like you're encouraging him in the season that he's in, and it just meant more to him than you'll probably ever realize. A simple act from you, but spoke volumes to him, and then to me and our family. And so when I think about community, you're just so good at it. So why is that? Why is it so important to you?
Yeah, even for me to be able to do that with Preston, which if you want to email Nicolet, she can tell you exactly what kind of cookies he likes. It makes him happy. You should bring him some. And at the end of the day, right, people want to be seen, and they love to be seen when they're at their best, but perhaps even more so, they want to be seen when they're at their worst, when things aren't going well, when things are difficult. I think about this. There's this rabbi, I think I'm saying her name right. She wrote this book called The Amen Effect. Have you happened to read it?
No.
Her name's Sharon Brous. I listened to her on a podcast, and man, she began to describe it. So when I think about community, this is it, right? And the ability to see people wherever they're at. She talks about this ancient ritual that they would do. And what happened was they would all walk into the temple. And if you were doing well, right, if things were going good, then you would walk in the temple and you would go right. And you would start walking around, right? And just eyes up, walking around. You might be walking with a friend or doing whatever it is you're doing. But then if life was hard. She actually talks about, for her, she knew about this, but then she enacted it, which I think there's a real beauty in how she did it. As it said, she went in and she invited people after she explained this. He said, and if any of you are like me and are in pain or hurting, she had lost one of her parents in the last year. And in the Jewish custom, that's a year of mourning, right? So she has a year. And she said, and if any of you are like me and you need to go left, you can. And there's I think that's a great picture of community, right? Because you see them doing this. And what are the people on the right side? The ones that actually have some energy to give. They have some wisdom. They have something, right? They said they often would stop and they would bless the person that was coming this way. And to just say, hey, may the God who is with us, may he see you today, right? Or just something of just bless you, right? Just whatever they could do to take that person that was going left. But I loved what one guy talked about. He actually kind of interpreted it a little bit, and he said, and those are the only people who are looking each other in the eye. Right, because the ones, if you're walking right with somebody, you kind of see the side of the face, but you don't really see
You're
them.
Not turned around having a conversation.
And they said sometimes they might look and encounter someone on the left, and in ways that they could. Right, I won't do it to you; it'd be awkward. But that they would just reach over and grab their chin and just lift it up and say, "Lift your eyes." I can't think of anything better. I can't think of a better way to describe why is it important? It's because, man, we need each other, right? Everyone, there'll be some times when I can leverage the strength that I have for the sake of those that don't have any. But make no mistake about it, there will be moments where I will have to walk in and go left, right? Everyone wants to be the man, right? The story of the man on the mat. Everyone wants to be one of the four men, but the story doesn't make sense if there's not a man on the mat, right? You're just carrying an empty sheet. Right? Why? Don't knock a hole in the roof for that, but knock a hole in the roof for your friend that just needs to get to Jesus. I think that's it, right? I think it's got to be. I've seen it be true in my life at some point. If you want to dive into it, I can tell you how it's been made manifest within the last year for me, just with the loss that we've had.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image.
Isn't
a
it?
really, really pretty image of that, and just that vulnerability and the invitation for that level of vulnerability, right? That it's okay. It's an expectation to go left. That there will be some who enter today that will go left. Where I feel like so often in our church culture, you just sit in the pew, you wear your smile, you wear your Sunday best.
That's right.
You have it together. There's no invitation for that.
Yeah.
Brokenness or pain or hurt.
Yeah, I think about that with some of the. So I get to work with they're beautiful people that are part of the group, our church group at Celebrate Recovery. We got a lot of recovery ministries, but that's one of them. And they used to joke about it, and I think maybe they even made a shirt. And I loved the idea behind it. They just said, "We are those people." Right? We are those people. And if you know their language, right, Celebrate Recovery is about people that have a hurt, a habit, or a hang-up. It's not just somebody that has a chemical dependency or an addiction to alcohol. It's anybody that has a hurt, a habit, a hang-up. And so the expectation of one, we are well in a sense, but we're not well, right? It's fundamental. That first step in that recovery language is, right, hello, my name is, and I am. It's not I was. It's because they understand at the healthiest. I'm one, like all of us, let me just say all of us, we're one bad decision away from being right back in a bad place.
Yeah.
Right? A place where we're going, oh, I don't know how to get out of this anymore.
Yeah.
I was fine until I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder what it would be. Can I turn a question back to you, though? What would it mean, right? Because I'm not the person to answer this question because I've worked in the church. It's kind of like when people say, how do you hunt for a church? I don't know because I've worked at them. Like every time I just
show up for work.
Yeah, I just show up and I have an office and it's like, hey, teaching Sunday school today. Wonderful. You've done a stint in the church, but you've also done a stint outside of the church as well. How do we create the culture that says, hey, you can... There's a place for you and your goodness and your brokenness. Surely that's not just where we go to church. I've seen it everywhere. Right?
Oh yeah, and when I travel and speak at churches, I see it at different churches too. And I think that's an interesting question because I was actually reflecting. Now Preston and I get to attend Christ United, where Jay serves as members, which is a really beautiful thing after serving on staff to get to be in a healthy place to be able to just be a member.
I do love that.
And to still serve. Preston and I both still serve in the church as lay people. And so as I was describing that, I was thinking about the recent changes in our own body of the emphasis on prayer at the end of our services, and that there's not something wrong with you if you come to the altar on Sunday morning to pray. In fact, that should be a practice for us.
That's right.
We should regularly be practicing that posture of, submitting ourselves to God in worship and corporate prayer.
Right.
And it's funny because I usually attend our contemporary service, but this Sunday we attended our more traditional service. And, in the contemporary service, the lights are down and, everything. Nobody can really see you go down, or they're like, who is that up there? Or, you walk back and maybe you can't see the tears or snot on my face as much, But in traditions, man, the lights are on.
That's right. We're here. Hello, everybody.
It's down. It's the sanctuary's elevated. You walk down, you have to walk back. So on my way, our pastor, you preached on Sunday, so you invited us down to pray.
Sure.
So we walked down, Preston and I did, to pray. And as I walked by, I felt like all these people were just looking at me, right? Wonder what's going on with them, right?
That's right.
And instead of that, but I think we're getting there in our church. We're starting to turn that corner and turn the expectation that comes with prayer. And that, you know what? It's okay that I'm walking down the aisle with tears in my face because I've had a conversation with God this morning. And that's that's where worship and the word is supposed to lead me to, is to acknowledging, man, I've got this sin in my life. Mm-hmm. And God, I need you to help me to get past it. I need you to help me to use kind words instead of harmful words, And so I think that emphasis on prayer is a really key thing to look for in a local church, as just going, okay, we are valuing people where people are and inviting them to meet God where they are.
Yeah, I love that. I remember, I don't know, friends, if it's your church context or not, but when I was little, and now I just make a joke about it. It's like, if you come down front on Sunday morning, everybody's kind of looking, going, oh my goodness. Yeah. What have you done this weekend? Mm-hmm. But if you used to come down on Sunday night, back when you had Sunday night church, everybody would go down front. And at Sunday night, it was kind of the expectation of going, you're already holy because you're coming on Sunday night. This is part 2 of the day. And then
you can actually come down.
And so you would come down. If you were doing that on Sunday night, it's kind of like, I wonder who they're praying for. That is messed up from Sunday morning, right? That seemed to be
yourself,
what it was.
Yeah.
No, Sunday nights you were praying for other people. But what it did, right, is it created that expectation that it was okay to go. I think what I hope we can get to, and I think this will just take a monumental move of the Spirit, is us really understanding it's His kindness that leads us to repentance, right? That He's not mad at you. Mm-hmm. Quite the opposite. He loves you, and so He wants something better for you. The same way that as we talk about community, it's difficult and it's messy at times. And someone will say something that hurts your feelings. And oftentimes it's not even on purpose. But that's the cost of looking up one day on your worst day when you've lost someone that you dearly love, and you watch those same people show up. They're the ones who in a very real way, like for me, right? When my brother passed away, 3 hours, I will never forget. I can call him by name. Mm-hmm. There were 5. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you even one more. And if he ever listens to this, he can know it. I told him. It's one of my former students. His name's Merritt. His mom and his dad came, which I'm so grateful for, but it didn't surprise me. He was already in Starville. And if I was a betting man, I would say, hey, this is what happened. Get in your car and drive to New Albany, Mississippi, because that's where it was happening. And I looked at him. I was in the line. And I just put my hands on his shoulders. And I said, I will never forget that you came today. Never. Right? I just saw him this past Sunday. He was so tired getting ready to come, but he was up and he came to church, and he just knows he's one of the few guys that when I see him, he gets a hug. He always will. Always will. Because he showed up in that moment where you just went, all of this investment. Right? And you don't do it to get something back, but when you do, I can't lie. I'm like, well, it didn't mean a whole lot. No, it meant a ton. It meant a ton that, my best friend drives from Georgia and my buddy drove from Jackson, and they're just sitting there. And they didn't leave, right? Even when I had to go do other stuff with people and go see people that my mom was waving me over to go see, and they just stayed in the corner. And then as soon as I got done, I could just walk back with them and go talk with them and laugh and clown and be sad.
That's a really powerful, tangible example of how people showed up for you, how people were that community for you. What suggestions do you have for our listeners how to be that community for others? Because I think sometimes we just wait and we want people to be that for us.
Yeah.
But how are we taking that first step of investing in others? Because I guarantee those people showed up for you because you have shown up for them.
Yeah, I hope so.
In the past.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I think an incredibly practical first step. It's the same thing I actually told our staff yesterday in our time together. I said, eyes up. And that's not a metaphor for something. Literally, get your eyes up and just see what is happening. One of the things that we did, right, when you were transitioning from one job over to working at Christ United, I did something that I thought was good, and it didn't work, right? Now, it didn't mean that it wasn't sweet or it wasn't kind, right? So I brought you, right? I left it at the sign, right? I left you a chocolate bar because in my world, chocolate makes everything better. And I knew that you were going to have a hard night that night. And so I wanted to, and what I didn't know is that makes you sick. So you probably had to give that to Preston. Like, here, buddy, I got you a chocolate bar. It's not that that's not sweet. It's not that that's not good or that you didn't know that it conveyed care. But if I would have been a little more intentional, if I would have just had my eyes up a little bit more. So I think about that, right? Eyes up a little bit more.
Man, I still remember that because that was, one of the hardest nights. And I just felt seen.
That's right. But even, right, so you get part of it right. And I think that's it, right? There are just levels of how you can do it. I see you, and then almost as if as the Lord does one, and I see you more perfectly along the way. I see that it's going to be a difficult night, so I bring you candy. If I would ask a better question and had my eyes up a little bit higher, I would have brought you something else in that moment, right? That would have been even more. There are these brothers. They wrote a book. It's called The Power of Moments, and that's what they talk about. When I think about community and practical steps toward helping people understand that, is they say you don't have to be great in all the moments. You just have to understand where the pivotal moments are. You got to be there for those. And that's what I'm trying to ask myself with my children. That's what I'm trying to ask myself with people at church, with just my friends. How do I step toward them? Right? Be willing to take the first step, because everybody wants community, but so many people are scared of the rejection. It's one of the things that I tell our college students, and if you're a college student and listening to this, or you have a college student, just tell them the first Sunday that you're there. Chances are you'll move in on a Saturday. The first Sunday you're there, just go to church. Go somewhere. And walk out your door and say, I'm going to church, everybody. Anybody want to go? Because everybody's waiting on somebody to just ask so they don't have to go alone. And if you can just summon the courage to be brave for a moment, then oftentimes people will say, man, I've been hunting for that. That's what I needed too. Because who doesn't? Who doesn't want somebody to care about them? And as we do that, it develops into, I care about you and you care about me, and he cares about him and he cares about her. And the next thing you know, in my case, it's a group of guys on Friday morning at 8:30. We don't all go to the same church. But it all started with one guy, it wasn't me, who asked 3 of us to get together at a restaurant. And he said, here's what I'm thinking. I wonder if y'all would be open to doing this. And every one of us instantly was like, yes. If I'm honest, I didn't have the courage to ask. But he did. And as a result, years later, they're my guys. For better or worse, I'm riding with them, right? They're the kind of guys that could call me and say, I am wrong. And I know I'm wrong right now, but I need some help. And I'm like, I am on my way. I am on my way. Let's go. But it's taken years to cultivate. And I would say to add on to that, not only step towards someone, but then as you can, being more and more honest, more and more real about where you are. Anybody can tell the stories of victory. And we need to tell the stories of victory. But there's something that happens when I look at you and say, Nicolet, I need help. I have nothing to offer you. And say, I'm bankrupt right now. I'm lost. Will you help me? That's a pretty vulnerable place to be. But in that vulnerability, what do? You get the opportunity for someone to respond back to you and say, I got you.
Then you extend the invitation for them to be vulnerable when they find themselves in that situation. That's what I found through sharing about Preston and I's infertility journey over the years and our pregnancy loss. Now I have people call me all the time from all over saying, hey, I just lost a baby, or hey, my friend just lost a baby. Do you have any resources that would help her? Could you pray for my friend this? Can you talk me through, how did you pray after this happened? How did you pray in this season? What was going on here? So that vulnerability invites, when we show vulnerability, it invites vulnerability.
Well, I think about, I'm projecting, of course, because that, though in a very small way, I feel like we walked with you guys through that. As a man, I've never experienced what you've experienced. And I can imagine somebody needs the place. I would be surprised if someone has not called you and said, I am angry with God right now. And if I had it my way, I will not talk to him ever again. Because this is what he did to me. And I don't think I'd be a very good therapist if I didn't say, like, that is so real and you need to put that out there. But you've got to put it out there to somebody that has some wisdom from the other side, where they can tell you it's okay to be bitter. It's okay to be mad. And here's where you can park those things. We're not going to let it. Same thing when I see a client and they're dealing with a big situation. Somebody said, let's tell it where to sit just for the hour. That way it doesn't get to sit anywhere at once. It doesn't get to move every 5 minutes. It doesn't get to take over this whole session. Let's put it in its place. And I would imagine for you at some point you've had people, and they don't have to qualify it. Hey, Nicolet, I'm just wondering if you've ever gone through this, because you were brave enough to put it out there. And as a result of you putting it out there, then they come back and say, I'm angry, or I am so sad, or the Lord has been seemingly silent to me. All such real questions, such good questions, ones we ought to wrestle with, and ones that God isn't scared of.
Right. I love what you said, too, in the beginning, kind of bringing that story back in about the rabbi being in a year of mourning. How our culture just wants to rush us past the healing, right? It's often in a hurry. And so sometimes we aren't vulnerable in community because we think we need to be past this by now, or we need to be moved on or over this. And, you know, as we kind of are wrapping up our conversation and thinking about the cheer, the joy part of this, so often we can't experience that because we don't allow ourselves to truly experience the pain and the grief and the hurt in its fullest as we need to be able to then move into those places where that grief and joy can coexist.
Yeah. I think about that as when we think about wounds, the difference between a Band-Aid and a stitch. A Band-Aid's actually easier to put on. a stitch is hard. You're going to have to get a shot. You're going to have to be numbed,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to get some stitches. But at the end of the day, what's going to give you a better result?
If you've got a gaping wound. Yeah.
You need stitches. And there's going to be a moment of pain for the sake of getting better. And so in those moments, I think the title of your podcast is very apropos. You will very much have to choose cheer. I would argue that you will have to choose community, especially in a world where you can think that community is all around you and
We
really
have fake community.
Yeah. Real quick, you ever done any? A couple of people have talked about it. It's called Dunbar's number. You ever heard of it? Dunbar's number says he was not a Christian, which I kind of enjoy when they begin to make a point like this. He talks about essentially we're really wired to be village people, and not so much in the sense of the like YMCA village people, but more in the sense of the village people that says we're wired for 3 to 5 people that are our best friends. We're wired for 10 to 15 that are friends. We're wired for 150. That was about the size of the village. And that's about all we're wired to handle. You got to wrap your mind around that to just go, I'm going to have to choose. And one of the great things about that when they were talking about that concept of Dunbar's number is and you're going to have to choose to be a part of that community. And it was talking about old communities, like where if you found yourself outside of the community, I mean, you were dead, right? You had to be a part of it. But anything past 150, it started to lose then you weren't able to, that old phrase, circle the wagons and face outwards, that anything after 150, it wasn't about that anymore. It was largely infighting because they were inward facing. And to say, that's a surefire way for it to, right, that it's going to go downhill. So you got to have your people, but you got to choose them, right? You choose cheer and you choose community. Real people that are going to be real honest and help you lead you to a better place. Maybe this last little story, just for people that are going, man, this is going to be difficult. I found myself alone or isolated. There's this story about these Navy SEALs. One of is Admiral wrote a book. Admiral McRaven wrote this great book, and he talks about when they were training. They go out to these mud flats, and they just sink all the guys into it. So it's just nothing but their head. It's freezing cold. The wind is like just whipping past them, and it's cold in the mud, and they're down there for a long time, right? Navy SEALs just learning how to suffer. And he said, well, you could look around and you could just tell there were some people that were ready to quit. And one person, he said, it wasn't me, one person began to sing. I don't know what they began to sing. But then as one person sang, the other people joined in. And I love this phrase. He said, and for a moment, the wind didn't blow quite as hard and the mud got just a little bit warmer. Right? Just to go, it's going to be tough. But at some point, right, you got to choose to sing. You got to choose to be a part of it. And so I hope, friends, I hope you can find your song. That when you feel like it, you sing, and when you don't, you sing. You choose community. You choose cheer.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Thank you, Jay, for your time today. It's been a great conversation. Enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
And
I will say, I just got to tell you, like parting shot, I think this is I'm convinced this is a real gift to people. And so on behalf of the people that have meant to say thank you or have wanted to and just didn't know how to get in touch with you, since I'm here, I'll do it on their behalf. I'll do it on your behalf. I'm convinced people are grateful, and this is changing things for the good. So well done. Thanks for doing it.
Well, thank you for saying that. And you've been an encourager of the podcast from the beginning, and I'm really grateful for that and your encouragement along the way. And friends, we just really hope that you'll have a great week and step out there in community. Choose it. Go out and find it. That word is very intentional. We went through a lot of different words and trying to brand this ministry and choose. I chose it very intentional because it is absolutely a choice. So, what's a simple way that you can choose community this week? Ask God, and I believe that He's going to show you. We'll see you back next week. Thank you so much for joining us week after week on the podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our show and leave a review. It means so much to me and helps us to spread the message of the joy of Jesus. I am so grateful you are on this journey with me. Until next week, cheers.